There we go, so we are recording. So welcome everyone. I think what we'll do, hello there Lester, welcome. We'll just settle, someone else coming in. We'll just settle with the sound of the bell. So just so we all arriving together. Hopefully we can all hear that and not have to try too hard to hear that. Just allowing the sound to come to us. Noticing there's no effort required to hear. No effort required, just to be. And here we are, all together. Thanks for joining. I will go through the talk today. For those who sort of read the email, you'll have the insight of where we're heading today. We're looking at, as we often do with mindfulness, is how to negotiate some of the difficulties in life. Because life can, and often is overwhelming, difficult, challenging. Problems arise in the external world and problems arise within us. And it's helpful to have some tools in the kit bag to negotiate with some of these circumstances, some of these life situations. And we can't always or hardly ever control the circumstances that are happening around us. So to create total peace in our lives is unrealistic. And to do that, we probably wouldn't be living very much if we tried to reduce all opportunities or remove all difficulties or challenges. Then we'd probably find we're living a pretty plain life. So in a sense, challenges are part of life and they're part of living. Now, that's not to say we can't make peace with those circumstances. So this is quite often the bit we get stuck on, is difficulties and situations arise in our life, and it's often habitual, the human mindset, to resist or deny these situations in an unhelpful way, in a way that causes us to feel stuck or agitated in the presence of these difficulties. And there's a lovely quote from Byron Katie, who says, "When we argue with life, we lose, but only 100% of the time." And of course, she's pointing to the fact that life wins. If there's life is happening, and we often unconsciously attached to an idea of how life should be, how life should unfold, or how we want it to unfold. And of course, that doesn't always map very accurately onto reality. We often find that things surprise us, our expectations aren't met, things don't go our way. And we might be able to manage those on a daily basis. It might not be an issue, but sometimes they can build up. And sometimes we don't know we're doing it. We might not even realize that we're resisting or denying what's happening. So this is where mindfulness is helpful, because it gives us a few ways, and I'm going to go into those different ways today. It gives us a few ways of looking at things in a slightly different way, and perhaps giving ourselves a little bit of space, a little bit of freedom with our circumstances, not as a way of erasing them, not as a way of squashing them. It's how are we relating to what's happening? So the three ways is, the first one is acceptance. We're going to look at acceptance. We're going to look at finding peace within a circumstance or situation, noticing some of the peace that's already here, in any situation. And we're going to look at some self-compassion as a way of understanding when we might be contributing to part of the problem. Because quite often we're adding to the situation unconsciously, and we're not here to sort of gaslight ourselves into being the one to blame, but we're at least contributing half of of what a situation or problem is arising in most cases. So we need a heavy dose of self-compassion to be in a position to look at where we might be adding to the problem, knowing full well that it's a perfectly normal human thing to do. And we can give ourselves a lot of credit just for even being here and being open to these ideas and looking at things in a new way, because we're adding peace to our lives. We're adding peace to others' lives, or the lives of others. So acceptance is the first one I want to talk about, and we touch on that reasonably frequently in our mindfulness talks. And accepting is, it might seem obvious, it's the first logical step in solving any problem or moving forward with any situation, is first of all acknowledging that this problem exists, that right now this is here. Whatever it is, it might just be an emotional difficulty, like anxiety, a small anxiety hiccup. It might be the analogy I used in the email was being stuck at a traffic light. Perhaps we're already late, and you can feel, we've probably experienced that rising of frustration against life, against the red light. Or we feel anxious and we try and ignore it or push it away, or we say to ourselves, I shouldn't be feeling this. We deny our experience many times during the day, especially if it's something that makes us feel a little bit awkward or uncomfortable. So acceptance is really, it's taking stock, and it's a present moment activity. And this is what's beautiful about it, because it puts us in a seat of power. We can say, what is here right now? What is the case? What are the cards I've got in my hand in this moment? What cards has life dealt me? And we can't change those cards until we've played the hand that we've got. So we need to take stock, and we take stock by using our awareness to look into the body, look into our thoughts, look into our situation, and really acknowledge what is here. One of the phrases I hear a lot is, oh, it is what it is. It is what it is. And absolutely, that's true, but I hear it used in a way that discards what is happening. Oh, it is what it is. I might as well give up. It's that kind of tone. But it is what it is a really empowering first step to change as well. Because when we take stock openly, honestly, with accountability, what is happening right now, we're then in a position to do something. One of the thoughts that we get stuck on is perhaps, why does this happen to me? Why is this happening again? This is just my luck. Those kind of thoughts. But we're invited here to offer a different question to our difficulties. It might be, what are my options here? What can I do with this situation rather than fight it? What are my options? And maybe we don't know, and we can always ask for help. Reach out if we're stuck. And that takes a little bit of humility. I'm a bit caught on a problem here with someone we trust. How can I get through this? What are my options? So it's really just that first door is accepting what is already the case, what's already in front of us, what's in our hand, and then what are my options? How do I play this? It's no good chucking the hand away, the cards away. Sometimes life's so chaotic that we struggle to play the hand, and that's where help is required. So we can ask for help. So with that, it's not about accepting the biggest and most difficult things in our life and expecting to feel okay with it, we might practice on smaller things, the tiny things in life. Can I accept, something being late, the thing not arriving at the time, the bin being knocked over, the weather not being right. Some of the things that we don't have really any control over, but we can control our relationship to them. And the next bit is noticing the peace that's already here. This is much easier to do when we're already peaceful. Okay, when we're experiencing a moment of relaxation, it's easier to tune into a sense of peacefulness, to a sense of spaciousness. In a guided meditation, hopefully we get to taste or sample, even just momentarily, what it's like to be a bit freer from the mind, to experience some space or stillness. But that becomes much harder when our experience is dominated by a difficult situation, which comes with a load of emotions that make us feel tight and small. So again, it's about practicing in meditation, in times of peace and calm, of happiness, but also having an opportunity to practice that when things get a little bit more difficult. And it is a very subtle awareness that I'm talking about here. It's a shift of awareness from the content of our experience to experiencing itself. It's like it's not the sounds we're listening to, but listening itself. Not what we can hear, but what the actual hearing of the sound. Because any sound is actually arising from a foundation of silence. Sound is silence in action. And the same thing can be experienced within ourselves. Our content of our experiences is a movement of the underlying piece. It's our conscious experience. Because all we ever have to deal with, actually, the raw materials are experience. Whatever's happening outside in the world, within ourselves, all we're experiencing is our senses and our thoughts. Our senses are the window in which we let the world in: eyes, ears, mouth, nose, touch. And then we've got our thoughts about it. There's nothing else that we can experience. So it's helpful to turn the lens of awareness back on itself and start to notice experience itself. So this is noticing the silence underneath the sound. It might seem a little bit vague, but hopefully we'll get more of a taste of that when we practice later on. So the last part I want to talk about, it's nicely encapsulated in a quote by Carl Jung. And he says, "Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate." Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. So this is pointing to what I touched on earlier, is where we might be contributing to the conditions of our own suffering, either through an unconscious network of decisions that brought us to this moment and situation, or whether it's through the lack of acceptance or awareness about the situation. There was an acronym that I learned in a course I did called SIDS. It was talking about addictive behaviors, and it was the example was, if I had a problem with alcohol, and if I was trying to avoid going to the pub, I might make an excuse to drive past the pub on the way home, like, oh, I need to stop at that shop, or I want to take the scenic route. We tell ourselves a little bit of a white lie to put us in a more favourable condition to do something that we perhaps know we shouldn't be doing. And they're called SIDS, seemingly irrelevant decisions. And again, it's often only after the fact that we can notice when we've perhaps orchestrated a situation which has led to the conditions of our own suffering. But it's through that process of reflection that where we can learn. And in this way, we can use any experience as a tool to learn, to reflect, to grow, and to increase our chances of peace in the present and the future. So we don't waste any experiences, even if it feels like we've messed up for the 50th time in a row, done the same thing. How did I end up in this situation again? So with that, as I said, with that comes a big dollop of self-compassion, because we're not here to blame or to judge ourselves. We're here to unpick some of that, habitual behavior, habitual reactions and conditions that lead us to places what we don't really want to be going. Any kind of unhelpful behavior we probably can recognize in our own life. It might be something small or perhaps something bigger. And what we're trying to do here is to really, with absolute humility and accountability and compassion, is to acknowledge, okay, so I'm playing a part in this somehow. I'm playing a part, and I'm not here to judge myself, but if I don't address it, then it'll keep happening. So really it takes courage as well. It takes courage to look at those bits and pieces in our lives, those contributing factors that we might be responsible for. I love the difference between blame and responsibility, because we all are operating from a level of unconsciousness at times, and we're not in the driver's seat, we're reacting to things quite a lot, and we often end up in places where we regret. So that really isn't our fault. It's just happened. But that doesn't mean that we're not responsible for it. We're responsible for addressing the circumstances around it and going, okay, well, I didn't see it that time. I wasn't able to catch it in the process, or I wasn't aware enough to know what was happening until it had happened. But I can use that information. I can learn from it and grow from it and direct my life in a way that reduces the chances of it happening again. I was arrested for quite a serious thing, and that I spent a lot of time what ifing about that. What if I'd have done this and that? But I had to make a decision pretty quickly that the only choice I had was to make sure it never happened again and to make sure I resolved it as quickly as possible. But until I was able to move through the what ifs and stuff, then I wasn't able to address it. I wasn't able to face it. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. Some of it's a little bit vague. I get that, the middle piece, the noticing the piece. So don't worry too much if the words don't line up with where you're at the moment. This is a bit of a buffet. So we take what's useful, we take what's helpful, and then we leave what isn't. So I will pause the recording for a moment. Okay, so we will do a nice, gentle meditation practice now. So it's helpful to find a posture or a position that enables you to remain relaxed, that helps you to stay alert. Usually we sit up, but it's okay to lay down as well. And we'll start the meditation just by letting go of the grip of the body, that sense that we have to hold on to it. The first just, okay, we're not getting anywhere with this. We're not trying to reach something or somewhere. That's all part of what the thinking mind does with a meditation. And we're here to go beyond that, to sink into this stillness that's here already. The mind can be like the choppy waves on the surface of the sea or a lake. A lot of noise, a little bit of confusion, but under the surface of the water, things start to quieten, to calm. And in the same way, there's a depth to our experience, a depth to presence. And we might notice the waves as thoughts, as comments. We might notice the waves as uncomfortable sensations, difficult emotions. And our journey today it's about coming back home, not reaching for a different experience, but sinking into what's here already. And we can begin by bringing awareness to breathing, bringing some mindfulness to this breathing body. Noticing how the air comes in and out of the body effortlessly. So we notice the breath where we feel it the most. Might be on the nose, feeling that air flowing in and out of the nostrils. We might feel it a bit further down in the back of the throat, in the chest. We might feel it in the belly. So we're bringing awareness to the evidence of the breath, of breathing. Maybe sensations, maybe sounds of the breath. And we do our best to keep our attention here. We commit to focusing solely on the breath, on breathing. This is like narrowing our attention like a torchlight onto the experience of breathing. Knowing that it won't take very long before the mind pulls us into thinking. This is the habit of the mind. This is the unconscious hijacking of our attention. We commit to focusing on the breath and we notice quickly that our attention isn't our own. It's off into thinking and processing. judging, solving, labeling. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. This is the heart of the meditation, is noticing what's happening. Are we with the breath? Or are we lost in thinking? So as soon as we notice that we've lost contact with the breath, we gently, kindly return our awareness back to the sensations of the breath. Come back home. Noticing the details of the breath, the texture of the breath. Receiving the breath. Spending a few moments of silence, just experiencing that process of noticing the breath, and then noticing when the mind wanders and bringing it back to the breath. So our only job is to breathe, staying with the experience of breathing, and then when we recognize that the mind has wandered, returning to the breath. Letting go of the past, coming back home to this open, quiet moment. If the mind is particularly active, we can soothe it with a slightly deeper breath. Maybe exaggerating that breath slightly and bringing some balance to the breath, so our inhale and exhale are a similar length. Might be helpful to count to 3 or 4 on the inhale and count to 3 or 4 on the exhale. Just spending a few moments counting the breath, deepening the breath, softening the breath. And the other option is to visualize the waves of the sea coming up the beach and falling away again. As we breathe the waves in and we let them go. Breathing in and releasing. Noticing it's common to find this process somewhat difficult, to perhaps be judging ourselves already. So we can notice that just simply as mind activity, the activity of the mind, just thoughts about this moment, and we can let them go. As we come home again with the breath, allowing the breath to sink deeper into the body. Noticing how the body feels as we let go of the breath. And we can let go of any counting or controlling of the breath and simply focus on that bodily sensation as we let go of the breath, the softening, the relaxation. Tuning into that. Noticing any other sensations in the body, the most obvious sensations. Contact of the body on the chair or the ground. Feet on the floor. Clothing against the skin. Perhaps even air against the skin. Noticing any sensations within the body. Any sense of aliveness in the body. And if necessary, bringing that soothing breath into the body, into any areas that might need a bit of space, a bit of care. If it's possible, just directing that breath to those areas and focusing again on that. Letting go. Letting go of any unnecessary tension. Letting go of the need to be different to what we are now. This is acceptance. Accepting that right now, our experience consists of this. And that's okay. Allowing ourselves to be as we are, allowing our sensations to be as they are. Even allowing the mind to be noisy, to move if it's moving. Understanding that this is a perfectly normal human experience. We're not alone. We're all dipping into the same experience, just with different perspectives. So we're accepting and allowing ourselves and our experience to be as it is. Allowing it to change. Allowing our emotions to be as they are. If they're confused or frustrated, that's okay. If they're sleepy, that's okay. Just receiving this experience. And we can stay here. And just in awareness of the breath, awareness of the body breathing in this space, on this earth. Noticing thoughts as they arise and coming back to the breath. Soothing, sending soothing breaths into the body, helping us through this experience. In the next moment, we'll direct our attention away from the content of experience toward experience itself. So maybe we're less focused on the sensation, but more aware of the space in which the sensation is arising. Or noticing the movement of the sensations. Perhaps bringing awareness not to the sounds around us, but to the silent space between the sounds, underneath the sounds. There's two ingredients required for any experience to arise, and that is the experience itself, the content of experience, and our awareness of it. Is it possible to shift to the space of this experience, to the quietness behind it? Letting go of any kind of inquiry or effort, resting back in the body with the breath. Bringing some of that self-compassion into the practice. Perhaps through a sense of touch, we may wish to place a hand on the heart or take hold of the opposite hand. Just feeling that warmth of touch, of connection. Bringing awareness to any difficulties or any suffering, any judgments. And just forgiving ourselves, doing our best to bring some kindness and understanding, some compassion. Knowing that we are doing the best we can in this moment. And that difficulties are a part of everyone's life, of everyone's experience. Doesn't make us bad or weak or silly. We're allowed to experience difficulties. And as we come toward the end of the practice, returning awareness to the breath. One last time. Breathing deeply. Recognizing our connectedness with the air and the space around us. Our connectedness with each other in this group. And our connectedness with those that we know and love, and even the people we haven't met yet. And that the benefits of mindfulness, even just the practice itself, benefits ourselves, it benefits others. It's our way of bringing more peace into our lives and into the lives of those around us. And using the sound of the bell to signal the end of our meditation practice. But staying connected to our experience, this unfolding, this awareness. Just remembering there's no wrong turns in a meditation. I'm interested